The Marvel Cinematic Universe is in trouble. And I know, I'm usually the first person to say it's not a disaster, and I do think that's true. Many articles and videos tend to really sensationalize things when in reality, I think Marvel isn't doing great, but the fact that they finally had one genuine flop doesn't mean the whole studio's done for. However, Kevin Feige, I got your letter that was just a bunch of exclamation points, and I want to help. So I'm going to give you advice. Yes, this is going to be one of those 5 things Marvel can do to save the MCU videos. But unlike some of the others, this is not going to be one of those videos with vague, obvious advice like write the movies better or spend more time making them or don't overwork the CG artist. This is not the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I have specific issues that can be addressed directly and measured within a few years. I'm also not going to say stuff like give the directors more control because we tried that and it didn't work. Phase 4 was pretty much the giving the directors the most control they've ever gotten phase, and it led to Multiverse of Madness, which I like, Eternals, which I think is better than people give it credit for, and Thor Love and Thunder. Now that doesn't mean that we need to Russo up Phase 6, but the solutions I'm offering are more tangible. These are simple, achievable goals. Starting with, number 1, make more small connections. Okay, so this one seems pretty straightforward, but it gets trickier the further we go. People often get on Marvel's case with the criticism that the movies only exist to set up the next movie. And while I see what they mean, I think A, it's wildly overstated, and B, it's something they do for a reason. First, like sure, Doctor Strange ends with the Ragnarok tease, but who cares? That's not why the movie's made. It's just a little thing tacked on to the end of the movie. And they're usually made in such a way that if you miss them, you don't miss any of the story in the next one. Like in Thor Ragnarok, you still get plenty of setup for the Doctor Strange cameo. It's just that if you saw the Doctor Strange post-credit scene, you know that Doctor Strange's cameo is coming. And sure, sometimes a character like Riri or Echo is clearly being introduced with the expectation that they're getting a spin-off later on. But if they work in the introduction, who cares? Like if you did not know they were getting a spin-off, would this matter? But then second, this is something Marvel does for a reason. Phase 1 felt connected because Coulson showed up in 3 movies leading up to the Avengers. Tony was in 3. Fury was in 3. The shared universe is part of the fun. I understand why it can feel overwhelming, but when done well, it only adds to the experience. And I understand why you may have been hesitant to include these recently. COVID forced schedules to move around, so guaranteeing that a certain character was going to appear at a certain time was difficult. Famously, Val was expected to appear in Black Widow before Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness was supposed to take place before Spider-Man No Way Home. But schedules needed to be changed, and you guys made it work, but now that the machine is rolling again, we needed to pick these back up. Like Secret Invasion and Loki, both did not feature post-credit scenes. Guardians 3 had some, but they focused exclusively on the Guardians. Wakanda Forever had one that was only about Baby T'Challa. And I know what you're thinking. That's the point. The Guardians are better separate from the rest of them. Wakanda Forever couldn't follow the Chadwick tribute. Loki was a finale, Secret Invasion was bad. Sure, but these don't always need to be post-credit scenes. So here's recommendation number 1. Tell people, by the end of each show or movie, where they can see at least one guy or thing again within the next 2 years. So this can be a post-credit scene, but it can also be something within the movie or show. Either way, a moment like this can give the universe a sense of cohesion and set the expectation that there is a plan. Now, you're going to need to deliver on that plan, but it's worth doing. And to be fair, this has been done well. Ant-Man 3, the tease of Loki Season 2 worked pretty well. WandaVision, having Monica meet the Skrulls worked pretty well. The Hawkeye tease in Black Widow worked really well. The problem is, it seems like the recent Marvel post-credit scenes seem to exist to introduce a character that there is no clear plan on when we will ever see them again. The big 3 are Eros, Clea, and Hercules. I genuinely cannot see a clear entrance point for any of those characters in any movie or show that's coming out in the next 2 years. You'd be very generous and say maybe Hercules shows up in Thunderbolts, or maybe Clea shows up in House of Harkness, but it really doesn't seem like either of those are happening. What it seems like is Marvel wanted to use this post-credit scene to introduce a far future project, and that's not what the post-credit scenes are for. Here's some examples of connections I think we could have done in past MCU stuff. Thor Love and Thunder. A scene with Valkyrie in it can start with her ending a phone call with Carol. Just a little thing, because those two apparently talk. She-Hulk can meet Hope Van Dyne, the new CEO of PIM Technologies. Since they both live on the West Coast, they could be at some sort of event or something like that. Wakanda Forever should be one of the easier ones. Just have Everett Ross do a Skrull thing in a post-credit scene or something. Or even just have him call Nick Fury and be like, Nick Fury, I have that information you're looking for. Just so we're like, oh right, Nick Fury's in one of these coming up. Quantumania is one of the ones that does this pretty well with the Victor Timely Loki tease. Guardians 3 have one of the characters just reviewing distress calls and stuff like that, and one of them is that the jump points are acting weird. That's all we need, and that will tie us to the Marvels. Secret Invasion, have Fury meet Monica on Saber. Loki Season 2 has that line where they talk about the Kang from Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. While I don't hate that, I think that could be replaced with something related to Deadpool, because apparently Deadpool 3 has a lot to do with the TVA. You don't even have to say Deadpool. Just say, hey, what about that prisoner that won't shut up? I'll go deal with him later. And then we don't have to check on him, but it's like, oh right, Deadpool and these guys know each other. Connections are what made the early MCU so popular, and there's something that while it doesn't need to completely pull focus, it can't fully fade into the background either. Number 2, make more Avengers movies. This is not what you think, because obviously, yes, making more movies in the Avengers line, the most successful title in film history, is a good idea. But what I'm talking about is a little more complicated. Basically, you taught us how to watch these movies. You invented the cinematic universe. And when you did, you structured them like this: solo movie, sequel, solo movie, Avengers. There's some variation there. Sometimes there are more sequels than solo movies, and sometimes a movie follows the Avengers movie. Sometimes there are even 2 Avengers movies. But the formula stayed the same. Always at least one Avengers movie near the end. And you may be saying, well, that's all great, but we already have the slate lined up. Kang Dynasty is Phase 6. I can't push it up. A, yes, you could, but not the point. But B, I'm not talking about making new movies or changing the order. I'm talking about branding. Kevin, do you have any movies in Phase 5 that maybe could be called Avengers? It's especially easy now because nobody knows who the Avengers are. Like, Sam's definitely involved, and I assume Hulk and Hawkeye are grandfathered in, but that's it. So Captain America New World Order. Why are we not calling this movie Avengers New World Order and slapping it at the end of Phase 5? It'll probably have a bunch of Avengers in it, and for that reason, it should be a big event movie. So why not treat it like one? Or let's get creative. Thunderbolts. Cool name if you've already read the comics and know the team, but if you don't, it's a movie about Zeus's weapon from Love and Thunder, I guess. But really, it's about a team, much like the Avengers, assembled by Val to do bad guy stuff, probably. Why are we not calling this movie Dark Avengers? It even apparently has the Sentry, who was never on the Thunderbolts, but was on the Dark Avengers. Why are we overcomplicating this? And if we're thinking about names more generally, some of the names of Phase 5 and 6 might need work. If this Thunderbolts team is going to consist largely of characters from the Black Widow movie, why are we not calling this movie Black Widow 2: Thunderbolts? Yelena wears black now. Let's say that she is the new Black Widow. And now immediately people have a sense for what this is, what they need to watch to understand it, and if Black Widow was positively received, which it more or less was, this is something audiences will look forward to. Why was Captain Marvel 2 called The Marvels? Captain Marvel 1 made a lot of money. Why not use that to your advantage? Call it Captain Marvel 2 Galactic Boogaloo or something. Why is Armor Wars not called War Machine? Nobody knows what Armor Wars is. Use your most recognizable brand to sell these movies. Like, Nick Fury was a big player in Spider-Man Far From Home, but we didn't call it Fury and Spider. Branding matters, and it helps set expectations. Number 3. Make at least one movie for less than $150 million. Like, look at the next few years of Marvel. It is difficult to find a movie I would not expect to cost over $150 million. And that's before reshoots and obviously before marketing. But look at Deadpool 3. These films star Ryan Reynolds, and this one is bringing in Hugh Jackman. There's tons of expensive cameos, multiverse stuff. This movie costs money. Then we've got Cap 4. It's a Captain America movie. Captain America flies around. We've got a Red Hulk, lots of other weird superpowers probably. Harrison Ford is in this one. Also probably tons of cameos. This is also going to be expensive. After that, Fantastic Four. Rumors point to it taking place in space. This is probably going to be Marvel's most expensive movie of 2025 because of how much it needs to hit. After that, Thunderbolts. And again, expensive. This team consists of Florence Pugh, David Harbour, Wyatt Russell, Sebastian Stan, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and eventually some actor playing the Sentry. And maybe Harrison Ford. It is structured like an Avengers movie, and I don't think Sentry is going to be cheap. This movie is also going to be expensive. After that, you have Blade. You've got Mahershala Ali and he can walk and jump and wears a leather duster. 150, wait a second, this movie does not need to cost $100 million. It barely needs to cost 50. Sure, Mahershala is expensive and there'll probably be another A-lister attached, but most of this action can be practical, in camera. And that doesn't mean it's free, but you don't need to fully create characters and backgrounds and basically animate half of the movie. If this movie costs more than $125 million to make, Disney is out of their damn minds. John Wick 4 cost $100 million to produce. Blade should not be more expensive than that. Listen, I know making movies is expensive, and these days studios are expected to spend at least $150 million on a big tentpole movie. But they don't have to. Just make one movie in the next phase that costs less than $150 million. Why? Because success is not just based off how much money a movie makes, it's how much profit it makes. 2023 saw so many $150 million plus movies make hundreds of millions of dollars, and they were still failures. A movie making $70 million in its opening weekend is only a failure if it costs $250 million to make. Number 4, cancel Armor Wars. Listen, no one wants to see this movie more than me, because it is most likely that Armor Wars is where we see the live-action return of everyone's favorite sassy arms manufacturer, Justin Hammer. However, I don't want to see Justin bomb. It became clear recently, based on reporting in MCU, The Reign of Marvel Studios by Joanna Robinson, Dave Gonzalez, and Gavin Edwards, that in 2020, Kevin Feige, were pressured by Disney CEO Bob Chapek to announce a bunch of projects you weren't anywhere near ready to announce. Who can say why? Maybe to inflate Disney's portfolio and convince investors that things were going great? I don't know, maybe that. But the two projects the report cites are Fantastic Four and Armor Wars. Now, I think Fantastic Four, while probably not ready at the time, was worth announcing, since there's no doubt this gets made. It's when, not if. But Armor Wars? Doubts abound. After all, it was originally envisioned as a Disney Plus series and eventually retooled into a feature film. Uncertainty is in this thing's DNA. And listen, could it be cool? Of course. Here's a possible pitch for how this movie could go. James Rhodes' War Machine is freed from the Skrulls and cleans up the mess that is Stark Industries, which fell into disarray while Rhodey was captured. Justin Hammer bought it up, and because of mismanagement, it was pilfered, and the tech is going to cause an arms race that will destroy the world. So Rhodey, former CEO Pepper Potts, current CEO Justin Hammer, and hotshot new Stark intern Riri Williams need to work together to stop the various factions from acquiring this ultimate weapon. Easy sell. But this market just does not exist outside of my apartment. We have so many characters with stories people are itching to see. More Peter Parker, Miles Morales, Midnight Suns, all the X teams. If we're limiting the amount of movies and shows we can make per year, which I think is a good idea, Armor Wars just doesn't feel like it's worth being one of 3 movies released in 2026. Here's the future of Marvel, and let's work with the idea that you can make 3 movies a year, which seems possible. Homecoming, Ragnarok, Guardians 2. All in 1 year. It can be done. 2025, we're already breaking the 3 movie rule, but I'll allow it because 2024 only has Deadpool 3. We've got Cap 4, Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, and Blade. No room for Armor Wars there. Then let's look at 2026. Kang Dynasty, that's happening. Shang-Chi 2, probably where this goes. Then we can do Spider-Man 4. Sometimes the Spider-Man movies don't count for the 3. But if we want to do Armor Wars in 2026, that means no Thor 5, no Guardians 4, no Silver Surfer, no Young Avengers, no Black Panther 3, no Doctor Strange 3, no Hulk solo movie, no Eternals 2. None of that. And 2027 is Secret Wars, and you know we got X-Men right around the corner after that, so one other movie. And again, none of those other ones I mentioned. Instead, we're doing Armor Wars. So cancel it, or shift it into a TV show or special presentation or Marvel Signature or whatever we're calling these now. But let's not use one of our 3 theatrical releases on Armor Wars. Number 5, make one very specific crossover. Okay, so Disney owns Marvel, right? And that's led to a fine amount of cross-promotion. Peter Parker loves Star Wars. Ultron sings the Pinocchio song. Sometimes it's cool, sometimes it's weird. But do you know which group of characters the MCU has done nothing with, and in fact Disney has done next to nothing with? The Muppets. I love the Muppets. They always work on me. They're silly, charming, classic comedy characters that Disney bought for $75 million and, in my opinion, underused. Every so often there's a new show or special that they barely advertise, and then it comes and goes and Disney says, well, I guess people aren't into the Muppets. And listen, that recent musical show was fine. I think Muppets Now was pretty funny, and Earth to Ned, while not technically a Muppets thing, but a Jim Henson Company thing, was great. However, I think their most successful project since the Disney buyout should be the blueprint for how to do Muppet stuff. A few years ago, Disney created the Muppets Haunted Mansion, which is the best Haunted Mansion thing Disney has produced in the last few years, and a big part of its success has to do with how the Muppets fit into existing stories. We know who the Muppets are. Even kids who've never seen them before hear one sentence out of Kermit's mouth and they get him. He's the leader, he's sort of timid and friendly. This works for pretty much everybody in the group. Piggy is loud, violent, and loves the camera. Fozzie is eager, corny, and takes every opportunity to make a joke. Gonzo is strange, brave, and frequently injured. So it is easy to take an existing story and Muppetify it. I mean, this video hit Nebula right around Christmas, and one of the most beloved Christmas movies of all time is The Muppets Christmas Carol. It works because A, the Muppets are somehow able to exist simultaneously in a state of pure sincerity and absurd comedy. They can play a sad scene completely straight and punctuate it with a silly joke, and B, it is very fun to watch the Muppets make fun of a thing you already know, a familiar story, or genre, or theme park ride. Taking something like The Christmas Carol that's been done to death and throwing the Muppets in can remind everyone why we love the original thing that the Muppets are Muppetifying. Also, the Muppets have a storied tradition of hanging out with pop culture icons. Stars like Roger Moore would show up to the Muppet Show and make jokes about being James Bond. Or Christopher Reeve popped in to protect Kermit from Miss Piggy. Mark Hamill's Muppet Show appearance was the first time audiences saw Luke's costume from Empire Strikes Back. Putting the Muppets in the same room as an Avenger could just make people excited about that character by association. And we have a really simple in here. Here's a very quick pitch. After the events of Doctor Strange 2, Strange is helping America explore her multiverse hopping abilities. They star jump through a bunch of different dimensions, cartoon dimension, paint dimension, and after America has had enough, Strange tells America to send them home and she makes a star portal, but when they get to the Sanctum Sanctorum, they are greeted by Gonzo dressed as Doctor Strange. And we learn that America accidentally traveled to the Muppet Marvel universe and they're in the middle of an Avengers crisis. Let's say Ultron is back and he's destroying everyone. So Gonzo Strange asks for regular Strange and America's help. Strange says it's too dangerous, but America doesn't care. The Muppets need their help, and they're not going home until Ultron's defeated. So basically, this story is just them going around and hanging out with the Avengers. Doctor Strange and America Chavez are your Michael Caine, or Tim Curry. Now I've thought, just hypothetically, about which Muppets could play which Avengers, and here are my picks. Kermit is Spider-Man. He's small, jumps, he's the heart of the team. Sam the Eagle is Captain America. For the record, I'm not a huge fan of this one because it's a little on the nose, but that's where he landed. Fozzie is Thor with a Mjolnir rubber chicken. Miss Piggy is Captain Marvel. Bunsen is Iron Man. Beaker is Hulk. Yes, I realized that Bunsen is the green one, but Hulk Beaker is funnier. Pepe is Hawkeye. Scooter is Black Widow. There are like 4 Muppet women and we need the other ones for other stuff. Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem are the Guardians of the Galaxy. Rizzo is Ant-Man. Yolanda is Wasp. Uncle Deadly is Vision. Camilla is Wanda. The Swedish Chef is Ultron. I know they have 80s Robot, but Swedish Chef is funnier. And Statler and Waldorf are Stan Lee cameos. They pop up every so often and make fun of them. We call it Doctor Strange in the Muppetverse of Madness. Release it in theaters, release it on Disney+. But making weird stuff like that is exactly what Disney needs to be doing with both the Muppets and the Avengers to make people remember why they love both. So Kevin, that's the advice. Make the movies feel connected by deliberately adding natural world-building moments. Make at least one movie per phase an Avengers movie. Make at least one sub-$150 million movie per phase. Cancel Armor Wars and do a Muppets MCU crossover. You're welcome. But I want to change gears. Instead of looking at the future of Marvel, I want to look at the past of DC. Because I've said a lot of things over the last 10 years? Oh my god. Yeah, 10 years since the DCEU started with Man of Steel and just ended with Aquaman the Lost Kingdom. And I wanted to say something nice, so I'm going to do my In Defense of the DCEU video. It is 2 parts. The first part covers everything from Man of Steel to Shazam, and you watch that first part right now on this video sponsor, Nebula. The pitch for Nebula is incredibly simple. It is a creator-owned subscription streaming service that I helped to create. I was there at the beginning. All of my videos go on Nebula early and ad-free, and that includes the Nebula Cut videos only because people asked. People said, hey, I watched the Nando V Movies videos on Nebula. Why aren't the Nando Cut videos on Nebula? And I was like, yeah, good question. So I put them on there. All of my Nando V Movies videos go up one video early. So right now, the next video that's going to go on YouTube in a couple of weeks is on Nebula. And that's my In Defense of the DCEU Part 1 video. There's also all kinds of cool Nebula exclusive content. Patrick Willems' holiday special about Star Wars, Jet Lag, the new movie about Dracula's ex-girlfriends that Abby is working on, a bunch of other cool stuff that we can't really talk about, but I think you guys are going to really like. All that stuff is on Nebula, along with a bunch of other videos that I made exclusively for Nebula. Like, if you like our videos, and by our, I have a feeling there are so many creators on Nebula that you already watch. Like, you got Broy DeChanel, you got Lola Sebastian, Lady Knight the Brave, Jesse Gender, Captain Midnight, Hello Future Me, talking about Avatar. There's going to be a lot of that in the next couple months. Thomas Flight, talking about The Curse, one of my favorite shows of the last year. Princess Weeks, Big Joel, I love Big Joel. Patrick Willems, Georgia Dow, Therapist Reacts, talking about Blue Eyed Samurai, a show I really enjoyed. And then there are a bunch of other channels that I love that are not exclusively film and television. So like Leo Vader, I think his videos are super funny. He is on Nebula. Legal Eagle, very helpful every time there's some new legal related story that is on Nebula. Extra Credits, I've been watching them for years. They are on Nebula. I'm telling you, go on Nebula, check it out. There's so much cool stuff. We're always adding new creators to Nebula, which is great. And also on the homepage, we, and by we, I mean someone at Nebula, curates these rails. So like right now, there's one that's a look back at 2023. So you got like Film Joy's Best Films of 2023 video, Thomas Flight's Top 10 Movies of 2023, like Stories of Old, Best Movies of 2023. Why didn't I make a Best Movies of 2023? I haven't finished all the movies of 2023. That's probably why. Maybe I'll make one once I've seen the 3 ones that everyone loves that I haven't seen yet. So listen, Nebula's great. Now I know a lot of you guys, a lot of people that watch my videos, people tell me on Twitter, on the Discord channel, that they watch the videos early on Nebula and they give me some feedback. Sometimes I'm able to incorporate that. That is very cool. And Nebula is $50 a year, which is already a steal. But if you use the code NANDO at checkout, NANDO, and go to go.nebula.tv/Nando, you can get Nebula for $30 for the whole year. It's about $2.50 a month. It's an incredible deal. So go check it out. It is one of the best ways to support the channel. And it is currently the only way to watch my videos before anybody else does. Like genuinely, I make them, my editor works with me on them, nobody else sees them, and then they go right to Nebula. So you're like the first people to take a look at it. Besides that, thank you to everybody that continues to support the channel on Patreon, everybody that listens to my podcast, Mostly Nitpicking, everybody on the Nando V Movies Discord server, everybody that watches the Nando Cut videos, and everybody that follows me on Twitter. That's all I got. Stay safe. I'll see you next time.